is a Wild Wednesday on the Jeff Dubay Show. We are live at O'Gara's. Wednesday for us, and whatever day it listens, you like to listen for you. Beauty of a podcast. Lots to talk about in the world of our local NHL squad. Last night, actually 2 nights ago, regulation loss, the loss of the worst kind to the Vancouver Canucks on the road. Tonight they have the Calgary Flames. Gentlemen, not to go right into being critical. Tony Dean, Scott Schweitz, Jason McGovern here, by the way, along with Jeff Dubay. But I thought that game was without a doubt the worst that they've played since the streak started. I mean, that until they fell down 3-1, that team did not generate any offense, or sustain any offense.
That was one line in that game that competed and was difference making, and then the rest of the lines were just unbelievably absent.
Yeah.
You get a Charlie Coyle centered line with Nino Niederreiter and Jordan Schrader, and what you get out of it is Jordan Schrader uses his speed, uses his separation, creates a goal.
Yep.
On the first one, and then Jordan Schrader and Charlie Coyle outwork the team, and they find Nino Niederreiter again right on the doorstep. You flipped one to him, and Nino is firing, which is a great sign because you lose Zucker, you have to replace the scoring, and you get it out of Nino Niederreiter. You get nothing out of that top line. I thought the Vanek, Granlund, Fontaine line is just a terrible match. Really what you need, if you're going to have a line like that, you're going to need Fontaine to play out of his mind, and that line is just too small, too finesse. You just don't get enough out of Vanek, and they got banged on all night by Vancouver. I mean,
well, they did get a breakaway. They did have a breakaway opportunity. Fontaine, nice pass off the boards, caught Vanek behind the D. I mean, they did have an opportunity. And
Vanek legitimately wasn't cherry picking. He got knocked down. He pops back up. He gets found.
By the way, that was ridiculous. There was no penalty on that play.
I agree.
I mean, it's one thing to anybody who watches hockey. It's one thing to, if you're a defenseman, you can tap somebody with your stick. Tap him on the thigh, tap him on whatever. But that guy was pounding on him, and that affected his shot. And he was visibly angry when Vanek was visibly angry when he went to the bench, and rightfully so. I mean, the officiating once again, and I know this is kind of beating the empty drum here, but the officiating once again was bad. It was bad a few games I saw at home, and it just is. It's just absolutely ridiculous that it continues to happen. To the Wild, and I don't see it. Granted, I'm not watching national coverage, of other teams, to see if there is this sort of degree of bias like I see it with our team, but I don't know. I mean, it was pretty bad. For instance, not to go back far, but there was a Koivu penalty for diving when he got basically
embellishment.
Embellishment against the boards, and he got cross-checked
in the home game
into the boards.
Carolina game, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And you want to know what the kicker of that is? They don't blow the whistle when we have the puck. And,
that doesn't make sense.
And exactly. And Doobie-Doo is in the bench, and we got an extra guy. What if we score?
Yeah,
then
seriously.
What? Then what happens?
That is a good question.
Who answers? Because you know what happens then? They can't call the second penalty because they'd have egg on their face.
Yeah, you're right.
Oh, wait a minute. You should have blew the whistle instantly if it was on both sides.
You're right.
So, where's the answer to that?
Well, that ultimately shows that they had no idea what the situation was and how they were going to handle it, and as a result, it's just unbelievable that's what takes place. Is you call an embellishing penalty after it's a delayed power play, there's just no chance that should happen.
Not only that, how do you embellish getting cross-checked into the boards? Was his fall too dramatic? You got your skates taken out because somebody two-hand sticked you on the numbers.
Do you guys have a problem with that penalty in general? I don't like embellish either. I
don't like it going both ways.
But here's exactly, because if I got tripped and I fell, or if I didn't get tripped but I fell down, I took myself out of the play, so I've already been penalized. I don't understand if I fake a trip but go how. I don't understand where the integrity in the game is being fucked with. If I fall down and you think and fake a trip, how
they're trying. The embellishment thing is basically to call out players that have been habitual offenders of the diving. I mean, there's players out there that have been known.
Burrows.
I mean,
but
that
aren't
are
you
divers.
by definition taking yourself out of a play if you
I don't
dive?
mind the penalty for embellishment. I don't get giving a guy a penalty for tripping and a guy embellishing. Did he trip him or didn't he? If he tripped him, he didn't embellish. I don't
that's the big
understand it
one,
going both ways.
Well, that's what I mean.
You can call the guy for embellishment, but don't give the other guy a penalty then.
That's like
because the other guy didn't do anything.
Was it excessive? I mean, did he's just trying to sell it more because he was tripped and he like puts his arms up and tries to? Is that
that's what they're saying?
My point is, like, if you watch that play, you can't embellish getting cross-checked into the boards like that. I mean, I don't care. Anybody that has some graceful body control that they can, like, do a body roll and put their arms up in slow motion to show, like, oh, I've been hit. I mean, you don't have the frame of mind to do that, like, in an instant.
I'm not saying that there's not. There's definitely incidences where they're fishing for a penalty. Guy drops a stick. Guy makes sure that the cane penalty at the blue line the other night that cost the Wild the game against the Blackhawks. I think you could call an embellishment there and then even it up. I guess what that call comes off as it comes off as a referee flexing his ego, being emotional, and they're an NHL official. I mean, that's just not what you should get from them, and that's where the human element goes wrong when there's no oversight. I mean, there's a lot of politics in the NHL. I mean, if you look at who gets suspended for what hits, if you look at when there's outrage, when there's not outrage. I mean, there's no outrage over Keith Ballard, but there's just an unbelievable. I can't believe this happened to Tyler Seguin, and that goes with the star players and the politics of hockey. I mean, that's the reality of the league. The thing that hurt my heart about that Vancouver loss is that Vancouver team is not good. That Vancouver team is bound to melt and fall out of playoff contention. And we gave away the first game of this road trip with it looked like effort again, man. It really looked like effort because the top line got outworked. They got out hit. I mean, the only sense of urgency was that last scramble to try to get the game evened up. I mean, I love the passion out of Dumba. I love it when he's being aggressive. He punched a Sedin in the back of the head.
Good.
And Canuck Nation was outraged. I mean, get out of here. How is it not a penalty? How is it not a penalty for Nino to get hooked on that breakaway opportunity by Sedin all the way down the ice, and then he runs him, and then he ends up on top of him, and there's no penalty called at all. And then people are proud of Sedin for having a hit.
Mm-hmm. He ran him, and then Niederreiter scissored him. He basically scissored his legs, and then wouldn't let him go.
They bumped fronts,
and then not like that, but then
know what they did.
Yeah,
you watch.
That's right. Well, what is he? He's from Switzerland and then Sweden. I mean, a little proximity issue there. Maybe they're a little too close for comfort.
It's legal now.
Hey, let's take our first break. It's Wild Wednesday, Jeff Dubay Show. We are live at O'Gara's. Scott Schweitz, Tony Dean, Jeff Dubay, Jason McGovern. We will be right back.
Folks who've listened to the show, they know that I lived in the Uptown area here, right down Pleasant Avenue, as a matter of fact, and on the corner of Pleasant Lake is where Uptown Pond is. And I have been here numerous times, had numerous business dealings with them. It's just a nice place with good, honest people. Bob Jacobson, the owner, you run the place. You've always been good to me.
Thanks, Jeff. We try. That's part of our business. We're here to help people, and so everybody walks in the door. We hope we can help.
Well, what I've always appreciated is when people are nice to people who are the low man on the totem pole. Like when I was a bat boy, I like the star guys who are nice to the bat boy. Right. And I mean, I came in here and you guys didn't know who I was. You didn't know I had a radio show, and you treated me great. I mean, just a guy off the street.
Listen, that's the idea with I think a smaller family type business. Somebody walks in the door, we don't want to let them see everybody gets treated the same way, and we hope that's the case. And we don't want to see them leave without. We try our very best.
It's really easy. It's easy. It's low pressure. Good, honest people. Right on the corner of Lake Street and Pleasant Avenue. You guys got to check out Uptown Pond.
We're back. We are back. It's the Jeff Dubay Show. It's a Wild Wednesday. Talking about hockey and coming to here to town, the NCHC Frozen Face-Off is coming to the Target Center. It's March 20th and 21st. Now, you've got some fantastic deals out there. If you're coming in from out of town, coming from Grand Forks, coming from Duluth, St. Cloud, wherever, coming from Denver, if you go to my Facebook account, my Facebook page, or my Twitter account, you will see a tweet or a post, whichever the case may be, that has a link to hotel rooms. If the NCHC's made a nice deal with Minneapolis, Chamber of Commerce and the area hotels, right in the downtown area there, where you get a good discounted hotel room if you just call up and you say, hey, I'm coming down for the NCHC Frozen Face-Off. March 20th, 21st at the Target Center. It's going to be a great event. They got the Fan Fest. We're going to be broadcasting live, I do believe, from Kieran's. And coming up in consecutive Wednesdays later this month and then into early March, we're going to have some of the coaches from the league on. Maybe Dave Hackstall has been talked about, Bob Motzko, possibility, Scott Sandlin up in Duluth, these kinds of things. So we'll have a chance to talk a little college hockey here on Wild Wednesday over the next few weeks. And there's just absolutely no doubt, as much as it pains me to say this, the Gophers are no longer part of college hockey's most powerful conference. I mean, for years and years and years, the WCHA ruled the roost, and it was good to be the big fish in the big pond, or at least one of them. But there's no doubt that the NCHC is ruling the college hockey world these days. 4 teams in the top 10 last time I looked, and the number 1 team in the nation, the North Dakota Fighting Sioux. It is without a doubt college hockey's premier conference, and it will be, I firmly believe, college hockey's premier conference tournament. So get to the Target Center and check it out, March 20th, 21st. If you want tickets, there are a couple of ways to go about it. Go to TargetCenter.com, go to the Target Center box office, or call 888-9-AXS-TIX, AXS-TIX. So that's, and by the way, packages for the whole session, for all 4 games, start at just $60. So you can get some good prices and have a good time downtown Minneapolis. That's the NCHC Frozen Face-Off coming to town.
And I would bet there's an AXS app that you can get those tickets at
what
as well.
AXS
I've used
mean?
I don't know, but I've gotten tickets from them for something at like Mill City Nights one time. So go get the AXS app, and that would probably be your best way if you got a smartphone to get those tickets.
Very nice.
What a fun conference that is. I've caught a lot of the Miami Redhawks just because they have Louis Belpedio, who's a Minnesota Wild draft pick, former national development team player on that team.
Miami's a great program, elite program.
That Riley Barber kid.
Enrico Blasi.
Riley Barber is so good. That Austin Schernick. I mean, that tournament's going to be a fun tournament because St. Cloud State is good right now.
Well, they're fighting a little bit. They have fallen out of the top 16 of the pairwise, so they got some work to do. Duluth is a top 10 team. North Dakota's a top 10 team. They might. I don't know if I would say they're North Dakota's the class of that conference right now. But Duluth is certainly a team to reckon with. Miami's a team to reckon with. I've had a lot of people tell me that North Dakota-Miami is kind of the game that they're looking to have happen in the finals. But nonetheless, it's a great league. It's extremely deep. I mean, they put it together. When they put it together, they handpicked the teams. They knew what they were doing, and they made it as strong as they possibly could. Although maybe in hindsight, they maybe wish they would have taken Mankato. But that's hindsight 2020.
Who's the resurgent program in there? Isn't it Western Michigan? Isn't Western Michigan having just an unbelievable season this year?
I would have to double check the standings. You just put me on the spot, Tony Dean.
I'm ready. I am excited for NCHC.
A Western Michigan call out there. That's
seriously,
a first
how about that?
I want to get in there.
Yeah.
I want to talk about it.
Well, we've got NHL to talk about right now with the Minnesota Wild. Guys, a week ago, actually, I don't know if it started a week ago or 2 weeks ago, I started proclaiming that I really am confident this team will make the playoffs. I still am pretty confident. And despite the loss last night, they're still only a couple points out, 2-3 points out. And the most interesting element of this playoff race, when you look at the Western Conference standings, the 3 teams that are just on the outside each have, I believe, 3 games in hand on the 2 teams that are just on the inside. So it's an interesting little juxtaposition. As a matter of fact, I just had the standings. Let me grab it here again real quickly. But you've got right there. So you see what I'm talking about. The 3 teams that are just on the outside, do they not each have 3 in hand on the 2 teams that are in the 7-8 seed?
Yeah, I mean, us, Dallas, and Colorado. Obviously, there's a differentiation of points. Only 4 points are the spread between us, and then above us, you not only have LA who just jumped, leapfrogged us the other night. You got San Jose, which we have a few games in hand on, and I think actually we have 3 games in hand on San Jose. Only 3 points behind them. But then right above them, Calgary, Vancouver at 67 apiece. So there's a big a big spread here where you only have 8 points separating Vancouver from Colorado, and that's 7 teams. 7 teams at 8 points. That could change in a matter of a few nights.
Yeah, no, it's tight. It's tight right now, Tony.
And that also means that means you have to win games in regulation. You can't give teams easy points. I mean, a lot of what we saw with the point system last year is that teams were backing into the playoffs, just making sure that they get that 1 point. There wasn't a lot of contention in overtime. A lot of teams were trying to get to the shootout. I mean, Dallas, if they get Sagan back, they have a great shootout lineup. Chicago has a great shootout lineup. St. Louis has Tarasenko, who's just unbelievable. Plus, you got Oshie, Captain America shootout team. I mean, you can't let these teams off the hook. You can't have no sense of urgency until you're either trying to fight your way back into it or a team comes back on you, man. Tonight, right? This Calgary team is ahead of us in the standings. They're getting back possibly the Sam Bennett kid, who's a high draft pick. You got Monahan, their top pair. One of them's going to be a contender for the best defenseman award in the league, and the other guy is super solid. I mean, this Calgary team it's no longer full rebuild. They got the Johnny Hockey kid. He's fun to watch. I mean, they're playing good hockey out there, and they've changed the way the Pacific Division lines up. So, I don't have faith in Vancouver to stick around in the playoffs, but you have the Kings, you have San Jose lurking, you always have Anaheim in there, and you're battling it out where you're 6 points behind the Jets, who they lost Matthew Perreault today, but they still added at the trade deadline. They added so that they can keep Bufflin on the blue line. They added the Myers kid, who is really talented, and he's a big kid, and he adds offense. And they got rid of Kane, who was done for the season anyways. You weren't even going to get anything from him. I mean, that trade really signaled something.
Stafford made an impact right away.
Yeah.
I mean, he scored a couple of big goals, did he not? In their come from behind, multiple come from behind rally victory.
And he scored a shootout goal basically to get him that second point. So I mean that's another big one. And to look, I mean, another team I was going to bring up is the Sharks. The Sharks have lost 3 of 4. They stole a point, from the Caps in an OT. But I mean, they're ones that I don't know what the recipe is for San Jose to be successful, but they just can't seem to put it together. Where they're losing it as scores of 5-2 and 5-1 their past 2 games.
Now they've got an outdoor game coming up with LA Stadium Series, correct?
Coming up on the 21st.
That's
correct.
a very serious playoff implication game, and it's going to be played outdoor. Now, this is my problem with outdoor games. I mean, I get it. They're cute. They're promotional. It gets people's attention. People watch it, blah, blah, blah. But it's shitty hockey. It's typically substandard ice. It's typically very defensive-minded. It's typically won on a goofy bounce. I mean, these are not quality hockey games. And that is a playoff implication game. That's 2 bubble teams playing in a showcase bullshit kind of game.
Not just that, but I mean,
I hate those games.
That's a playoff implication game that's played in California.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one thing if you're playing it here where it's, what is it? It's 30 below. I mean, with wind chill.
How do they do it out there, by the way?
Well, it's the magical ice that, they have the Freon underneath it. It's not synthetic.
It's not synthetic. It's real ice?
I think it's real ice, and it has the Freon coolant underneath it.
Yeah, I think they got the cooler system.
If it's like 65 degrees or less, they can do it. Something like that.
It's something ridiculous. But, I mean, the point being is that how do you play hockey out there? I mean, it's 65 degrees. I mean, I played in all that gear, and you sweat your ass off inside the ice box, like back in Harding and Aldridge.
Exactly.
How do you think you're going to play when it's that hot outside? I mean, there's like health issues that you might want to worry about with overheating. I mean, so before that though, 2 days prior they also play the Stars. I mean, another big game that any of these go into 3-point situation games. They have a detrimental effect on the Wild's chances of making the postseason.
All right, let's talk more about the squad right now. On the positive side, and I've taken shots at the kid numerous times because of I just didn't like what I saw out of him in his U of M career and what he gave to the squad. But Jordan Schrader's giving the team something right now. You see the speed, you see the burst.
He's giving a Zucker replacement.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. I said that, as a matter of fact, I said that yesterday with Nick Peters on the show. That he doesn't kill penalties like Zucker does. He doesn't give you stuff in the defensive zone the way Zucker has been, finally, schooled to do. But offensively, he does make up for some of what you lose in Zucker with that burst, with that offense.
Not as flashy.
No, but he does see the ice well. He supports the puck. He always seems to be where he needs to be. In the offensive zone. He thinks and plays a good offensive game.
Certainly, what he's shown the importance of creating separation. I think that a lot of what we haven't seen dangerous plays from Vanek this year are because he doesn't create a lot of separation. I think the angle that Schrader adds, and even the kid that they called up today, the Michael Karanin kid, who is a friend of Granlund. They were in the Finnish Army together. He was the leading scorer in the Finnish league a year ago. He's the second leading scorer for the Baby Wild. They call up these two, and then if you can mix them in with the other guys that are bigger, that are better at possession, that might lack a little bit of speed, a little bit of puck handle, if Yo can mix in these lines, then you find it where you have Charlie Coyle and you have Nino Niederreiter on a line with Jordan Schrader, and it's the best line on your team.
Hey, knowing that you guys are not big Prosser fans, I get it. I mean, Prosser, he's a very, very, I don't want to say middle of the road defenseman. He's worse than a middle of the road defenseman. Despite the fact he's been playing well lately, I had to thank you guys both when he scored that goal the other night because Vanek hit him on a gorgeous backdoor, and you could tell Prosser all of a sudden he's got the puck, stares straight at the goaltender. He's 10 feet out, and he shits his pants.
What do I do?
He's like, "What the fuck? How did I get here?" And he tries to go backdoor to Granlund and puts it in out of a defenseman. I mean, I just pictured both you guys laughing your asses off at that. I mean, it was as unskilled a goal as you're ever going to see a guy score.
It was right in front of me.
Oh God!
It was right. It was like
it was absolute buffoonery.
I had to roll my eyes. I'm like, you know what exactly I thought of when that happened? I'm like, I'm gonna have to hear about this. It's just like when Brodziak scores.
The Brodziak goal.
I'm like, I'm gonna have to hear about this. I'm like,
but it was
as soon as
garbage.
I start bashing people, they're scoring.
It was garbage, though. Oh, was it garbage?
I saw his family was there. His wife, his parents, and his two little shorties with 39 jerseys that had Daddy
cool.
on it.
Very cool.
So they got
He's been playing better. You have to admit.
They scored a goal in front of the fam. I mean.
Well, along those lines, what do you think the chances are that they get anything out of Ballard this year? And how much does it matter? Because Dumba's been playing well.
Why would you bring him back?
No, I don't think you bring Ballard back. I mean, as is having to have three goaltenders on the roster is making it very tough for them to maneuver cap wise, and for them to be able to do anything with calling a guy up, scratching a guy. Just like what makes it tough is when you carry Backstrom and you're going to buy him out next year and he has a no-move clause, so you can't even send him down for anything or you can't move him in a trade, then it puts pressure on Fletcher. We look at Nashville and the Jets made trades, and Nashville got Cody Franzen back, and he's a 6'5" guy to play top 4 minutes, and they got Mike Santorelli back, who is an upgrade completely over Olli Jokinen, and they got 84 points and probably the best goaltender in hockey, and that's in division.
Well, listening to Russo the other day in between periods on FSN. Oh, thank you very much. Listening to him on FSN, he was talking about the market, the trade market, and that really there's quite a few rent-a-players available out there, but that it is a seller's market right now, and that they're really asking too much. I mean, is there anybody out there that you guys look at and you want them to act on or think they should or need to act on? And how far do you go? I mean,
you have to proceed extremely cautious because, I mean, what if you do become a buyer and it doesn't happen? Then where are you sitting? I mean, you've just bought a rental player for no apparent reason.
Yeah, especially you better make the playoffs.
You'd have to. Any player, and I've read this on multiple sources, and any player you're going to get is not going to be a rental. It's going to be something that you're going to at least have to have the option of extending.
It's like a Pominville.
Wow. So the two top guys in the market right now, Antoine Vermette and Sekera from Carolina, they're both rentals. They're both one's Sekera he's like 28, but Vermette's like 32. And so both of these guys are unrestricted free agents this summer. Both these guys are considered to be the top two known available in the trade market. Both of them probably could come in here and serve a role. Like Vermette could come in. He could play the center position. Maybe that bails out how he can play in the wing, use his speed. The other thing is Granlund hasn't been good. Granlund hasn't been a top center. He hasn't had top center production. He's gotten beaten up. A lot of teams focus on him and Brodin and Spurgeon like Colorado did in the first round, and they just pound the crap out of those guys. And those are tough kids, and they withstand it, but it costs them effectiveness. It costs them production. The Sekera would be a huge upgrade to maybe the third pair, and then you play them on the left side of Dumba and Folan, and I think that you would have a great three pairings. But ultimately, what you're going to have to give for them, you're looking at a prospect that's ready now, probably a first. I mean, it's unbelievable what the price tag is for either one of those players. You know, the one guy, all the hockey nerds, according to Brian Reynolds, who can suck it.
I was waiting for it.
Yes, he knows. He knows. The guy that all the hockey nerds have talked about is Sean Bergenheim, and Bergenheim is the one that's been in the press box, and he's the one that's been talked about as his agent has requested a trade, and when they put his numbers and his effectiveness, he could slot in very well in the top 9 for the Wild, be very effective. He's never been a total goal scorer, but I think that he would shelter a Granlund a little bit. He would go out there and he would work. He would play in both ends, and he's a guy that Mike Yeo would he would empower him rather than hide him like we did with Molson last year.
So I got a little sidetracked with the whole Brian Reynolds.
No, I don't.
Scott knew that was coming. He goes, there it is.
Oh, I watch it, man. It's just toxic exchanges back and forth.
Well, not really back and forth, because what I've learned is you should just never acknowledge a guy that's going to be a tough guy on the interwebs, or he's going to look for attention. And especially like,
dude, why don't you go boot his car or something?
Well, you know what it is? He's like 45 years old and his life sucks.
45.
So
I'm 47 and my life sucks.
No, but it's different. People seek you out. Nobody seeks him out. And because they don't seek him out, then he wants attention from people. And that's what I've decided. So he's the coolest guy ever. He's best friends with everybody. They have their private Twitter conversations. Nobody cares,
boy,
sir.
You're not gonna hear anything.
Nobody cares.
You're not gonna hear anything on Twitter.
He does get responses from like Russo and Chad Graff and the
recently.
I don't think he tags them.
I don't think he has recently.
Well, but
because he's been
we're talking about
toxic.
we're talking about him right now, so maybe we should just stop talking about him.
Yes. So that's your shine, sir. There's your
He's
response.
winning.
Oh, Tony. Why, you're an officer. Go get him towed. You know.
No, he doesn't need my help to be
Miserable?
where he is in his life.
All right,
Congratulations.
I'm transitioning conversation. So let's go back to the trade.
Hey, Tony, do you know this guy?
Yeah, those are Western officers.
Let's go back to the trade bit. So, I mean, who knows what kind of magic Fletcher can possibly work? But I mean, all the people we just mentioned, I don't personally think unless you can extend them or the cost is not going to be as high. Like, I don't feel that they are that desirable. I mean, I don't think that above and beyond what we have on our squad, I don't want to go out and spend draft picks and prospects in some kind of hope. Now, especially considering the stuff we've given up has been, we've given up draft pick for, Dubnyk. We've given up, a draft pick last year, a fourth rounder. So I think, what is even remaining on our draft, picks for this upcoming?
Yeah,
sure.
They're definitely low.
It's thin.
And these guys aren't impact. These aren't impact players.
If you're gonna make
I get you.
if you're gonna, and I'm not calling for a blockbuster. But if you're going to do something and you're going to package something together, I want it to be impactful, not only now, but for the next, foreseeable 2-3 years. I mean, something that we're going to actually, because this is, let's face facts. This is not our year. We started out slow. If we creep into the playoffs, we could be some Cinderella story. I'm not going to call that. But there's still pieces that need to be fixed. And when we shed some fat in the offseason and shed some dollars and have the money to do what we need to do, I don't think there's any reason to rush now unless it's going to be something that's in the equation next year.
And with this current crop of allegedly available players, it's probably the worst I've seen in 5 years.
Yeah, so you don't. I don't go over and overspend. But if you can package something together against an Edmonton or something else that's garbage out there, and teams that are constantly being bottom dwellers, and then get something that's worthwhile. But until that happens, then don't do something for the sake of doing something.
Maybe find a way to dump Zach Phillips on somebody for somebody, like, because
pull the wool over their eyes and be like, he's really good.
I wrote about it. I wrote about Alex Tuch. I wrote about Lucia.
Isn't it Tuch?
Tuch, depending. I've heard
tomato.
I thought the other guy's name was Kiernan.
Yeah, right. So I wrote about Phillips being just the most disappointing draft pick.
Phillips, we agree on.
Since AJ Thielen.
Oh, speaking of Michigan, hey, we're bringing it back.
Michigan State.
Oh, Spartans.
Which is just brutal. Fourth overall pick, I think.
Hey,
really that high?
No, maybe it's 12th. It was 12th overall.
He's married to a smoke show, though.
Oh,
Really?
sure. Yeah. And he's from Prior Lake too, so it's not like he has a bad life. I mean,
she's
he's
legitimate,
living the dream.
Legitimate smoke show.
Yeah, no, good for him. Good for him. I was wondering, and not to second guess, and I'm not going to put anything on Dubnyk, but he does look like he might be getting a little tired. Are you surprised they didn't give him a night off against either Florida or Carolina at home? I thought those were the opportunities.
Why wouldn't you give him a night off?
I don't know why.
Why wouldn't you get Darcy Kemper back in here?
At home against an Eastern Conference non-playoff team, to me, those are the chances.
Why not get him functional? So now when do you play him? You play him in Edmonton? That's almost saying that you don't trust him more than you don't trust him. I mean,
but here's the thing: it's more than just that. I think if you have to counterbalance the effects of not only the goaltender, but what the ripple effect of changing the goaltender will do to your squad, because you've clearly established a confidence across your entire team with that guy between the posts. You put in the guy that people don't trust. Is that going to affect the play? Is it going to, like in the Carolina game, for instance, we were up 3-0, up 3-1, up 4-1, and all of a sudden they start creeping back into this, 4-3, and you're like, uh-oh, what's happening?
Right.
And, I mean, if you have somebody else between the posts,
That game is played differently, isn't it?
correct. It might not be a 6-3 game at the end. It might be a
that's true.
6-5 loss.
But when they're creeping back in, I was against you on this whole confidence thing, but I think you nailed it.
Damn right I did.
You really did, and that this
I know
in
my
a
shit.
game like that.
Props.
Exactly. In a game like that, it's very easy to go, oh shit, here they come.
Woe is
But
me.
they went, no,
I mean, they'll all go,
we can stick in there.
They'll all go straight Eeyore, and they'll be like, no, we're going to lose the game.
Well, flip
Better go to
side
the
is,
locker room.
flip side is, I mean, Dubnyk's last
Lost
two
my
games,
tail.
other than the game he got pulled in Detroit, which I still think was a kind of a fluky game with a lot of bad bounces. That game aside, the last two games have been his worst too as a member of the Wild. I mean, he looks a little tired.
No, he
He
might
still looks as good as Kemper, right?
might have just stood in and played a solid game, and it might have stayed 4-1.
on the flip side, though, why not give Kemper a shot to get back in the mix?
I
Give
agree.
him a little confidence.
He should have played at home last week. He
Because
should have played at home.
now you're staring down, 11, 12, 13 games in a row for Dubnyk?
And not easy games, right?
And so he captured
He should
the
have
magic.
played Edmonton. He should have played Edmonton on Friday. He
Yeah,
should play
yeah.
on Friday.
Yeah, you could.
At Edmonton.
But
That is a team
That's
that
the-
is worse.
But
than
that homestand would have been a good
Carolina
time,
and-
too.
But so
Florida,
what? But
yeah.
if you play him against Edmonton, aren't you just shitting on his confidence? Like you,
At least
you
you're gonna
waited,
play him. At
You
least you'll
waited
play him.
14 games. 14 games.
You mean
and
on
then you
Kemper's
play-
confidence?
Yes.
Do we have any confidence in him? Does anyone believe
You
that
gotta-
the Wild have confidence in him? I don't think you're lying to him
I have
by
more-
throwing him in Edmonton.
But I have more confidence in Kemper than I do in Backstrom. So if Backstrom's going to be completely out,
I think it'd be
then you
Sandwich.
have to bring this kid back in.
Of course.
So that what if Dubnyk gets hurt? What if Devin Dubnyk gets destroyed like Victor Fast in that shootout?
and we break up
blows out his sports groin, his sports hernia, and then well, yeah.
As opposed to the normal day
Well,
groin.
it's different. It is a little different than the sex groin.
What kind of groin you
Yeah,
got?
another groin.
I myself
Nice.
have a sport groin. That's me.
Nice. So what? Dubnyk gets hurt. Then you're
Golf
back
clubs.
to what? You're
got-
back to Darcy,
You're
man.
your golf club.
You're shining up the golf clubs
right.
at that point. That's
You're
it.
looking to
There's
play all the
nothing-
kids. You
nothing
get
more
ready
you
to go. You go the whole
The other
9
thing
yards.
is,
Then we're toxic again.
the other thing is, every game from here on out is going to matter, right? If you don't build Darcy back up, you're going to have to use him at some point in a game that matters, whether it's a playoff game, whether it's the last week of the season, whatever it is. Wouldn't you rather lose the one now, but get this kid back in the mix? I mean, come on.
Against Edmonton.
Hey, before we head to break here, I mean,
Silly.
we are at O'Gara's, and it is it's Lent now officially, isn't it, Scott? You're Catholic.
Fish fry, baby.
Yeah, you're doing the all you can eat fish fry. Go ahead and plug O'Gara's.
Damn
a little
right,
bit.
it's good. It's actually, I'll be honest, it's one of the better fish fries I've had. I do the circuit.
looks good.
I do the circuit around the town. And the other ones I will give love
circuit
to.
fish fry?
I'm a circuit
Well,
fish
he's
fryer.
Catholic, man.
And, well, you got to find the good ones. I
Well,
mean,
in the Irish bars, I mean, they're
Other
going to have
bar-
all the Catholics. That you'd think they'd be on top of that.
Correct. And the churches are good for that too. But another bar in St. Paul that has damn good fish fry, if you're into fish fry, is Tiff's. Because it's like a Summit beer-battered fish fry.
Oh, wow.
And it is real good. I mean,
Well, way to plug somebody else. We're at O'Gara's. by the way.
I'm just
I
saying,
think that was the whole point was to plug the
Hey,
sponsor.
free show. It's a free show to Gareth. It's all good. We get plug Tiffany's too.
no, but my point is, like, I'm impressed with this. Like, it takes a lot for me to actually say this is good fish fry.
It looks good.
There's
That's
no
why I
fish
brought it
fry
up.
there's no fish fry that matches this on 7th Street.
I'm kind of hungry, and I'm watching people get food all around us, and it's tough.
And
Man.
of all people, I don't think that Scott Schweitz is going to come out and just fluff it, and just be like, "Oh no, it's really good because I'm here."
I mean,
I
it's
actually
it's
think that he's
meaty.
credible on that one.
I mean,
Yeah, it looks
it's
really good.
meaty. It's
Although
not like
he's a giver, so I'm proud of you.
yeah,
He just ordered an a la carte walleye.
No.
Did you ask for,
So it's all you can
for a
eat.
little
It's
more?
all
It's all you can eat.
Yeah.
I ordered an extra.
I thought you ordered an a la carte.
No. He
Ship
it's
me
all
one
you
more.
can eat.
A little more of that.
I did
Yeah,
a
a
little
little more
They
of
brought
that.
them when we're out.
Get my pinky out.
We'll be back. It's our final break. Wild Wednesday on the Jeff Dubay Show.
Fish fry.
Okay, last year, 2013, I lived just down the road, Pleasant Avenue, just a few blocks here from Uptown Pond, which is right on the corner of Lake and Pleasant. And, there are a couple of times, you just try to get to that next payday, maybe a couple of bucks short. If you've got some items, jewelry, diamonds, electronics, I mean, you come down here and they give you a fair price for it, and then you come back a week later, 2 weeks later, whatever, you get it back at a real reasonable price.
So we're very competitive, we hope, on different angles, in different ends, and different articles. Computers, electronics, TVs, jewelry. We buy, we give loans, and we also have emphasis on diamond jewelry too, that we also try and give credit for the best we can. We're specialists in that area also, so it's an all-round sort of combination.
Well, it's a great place. It's a nice, clean place with honest people, and I tell you what, it's got a real family feel to it. As a matter of fact, it's tied into Strauss family, and I go way back with the late, great Jerry. So, I mean, these are people I know and people I trust. You can find them on Twitter, too, by the way. They're at Uptown Pond, and also on Facebook, Uptown Pond, and uptownpond.net.
So funny.
All right, now we are.
Wild Wednesday continues on the Jeff Dubay Show.
Yeah, you got satin shoes.
I love this song. Now, we got good music on the show. Of course, it's all mine. I wrote all these songs. Performed at.
Yours as in you wrote it, produced it, all of it.
I
Yeah.
got to find you some better attorneys then.
Check this out. You can't make that up. Look at the TV above my head. Just a little inside humor.
Puppy.
Hey, Tony, wake up.
And I just said, hey, crop that quick.
Nice.
You might want to
Isn't
crop
that
that one.
unbelievable? Unbelievable. You can't make it up. Oh, God. I'm not putting that up. I had to take a couple of pictures, so of us doing the show, so we could put them up, with the podcast on Spreaker. You know how you have a little picture of guys doing the show, and he gets one with the TV over my head, and the scroll said something about a failed drug test right above my head. You can't make it up.
Too good.
You can't make it up.
I just appreciate you don't taking a picture of him stuffing my pie hole full of fried fish.
I think he took the pictures when you were talking because you're pointing. So.
I like it. I get into that. I think I got it from him.
I like it when Scott gets to pointing. It's always a good show. That's what I try to get out
Scott
of him.
pointing and you drinking. Those are the best podcasts
That's a
of all
litmus
time.
test right there.
I'm like a podcast agitator. Is how it gets down.
It's a Wild Wednesday. We're live at O'Gara's. And, of course, you can get the show. If you listen to the show, you know where to get the show. I mean, you get it at jeffdubay.com. You get it at iTunes. You get it at iHeartRadio. Spread the word. Share it, love it, tweet it, retweet it, whatever. At O'Gara's. It's our first show at O'Gara's. I'm not sure that – I think it's just a one-time shot for us, but it's cool to be here. I was hoping to run into Danny. Good dude. I have not had a chance to go looking for him yet. Check out this guy coming in a fur coat, dude. Seriously, right behind you. It's fucking weird. Check that out.
I'm not saying anything to him.
Isn't that weird? That freaks me out, man.
He looks utter trash.
That's a woman's coat, isn't it? Is that a woman's coat? Isn't it? I mean, tell me. You have it straight up. That's a woman's coat, right?
No, I'm not going to continue to stare at the man.
It looks like raccoon
Hey,
under.
let's get back.
Looks like raccoon undercarriage.
Don't get us beat up, dude. He might be packed. All right. Anyway, it's a good thing there's some police here. Back to the show. Back to Wild Wednesday. It's Jeff Dubay show. Guys, I know that things are a little disjointed in the lineup right now. You got some people out. You got some injuries. You got some. You got some guys down. So you cannot have the ideal line combinations. You can't put together, the way you had it, 3 weeks ago when you just and Yo's the kind of guy. When things are a little disjointed like they are right now, he can't get through a single game with the same line combinations. I mean, he's juggling throughout. So it's kind of a two-part topic here. Number one, what do you think of constantly changing and dabbling? So I like guys to build chemistry. I mean, I like to put lines together and keep them together. I don't like a lot of shifting around in game like that. And secondly, what do you think are the kind of combinations you could go forward with and win with and stay together with your lineup being a little shorthanded right now?
I think Yo always defaults to Koivu, Parise, Pominville. And all of those guys are talented, but they tend to not get it done, and it also kind of hurts the lineup with regard to other guys needing maybe Pominville or Parise to play with them. The Granlund, Vanek, Fontaine line was brutal. I'm hoping to see that switched up. he captured a little bit of magic there with Coyle, Nino, and Schroeder. So now if Schrader.
Schroeder's a Peanuts character.
Nice. I think if Vanek's not going to
piano.
If Vanek's not going to play tonight, I think you have to definitely mix up the lines. I'm hoping that Koivu plays with Nino and maybe Coyle, because I think that they're really good together. Schrader can play center. Howla can play center. You know, if the fourth line's going to have Veilleux on it and Brodziak, and you talk about how they're special penalty killers, then maybe they don't need to play very much unless we're on the penalty kill. And then you just have three strong lines. You roll them. You mix in some speed.
Well, LaPanta brought up something that Yo said the other night, and it did make some sense to me. I know you're probably going to dismiss it as an excuse, but he's a little hesitant to put younger guys with established guys because younger guys defer too much, and I can see that. I mean, if you put a kid like if you put a kid like Zucker, although Zucker's a brash, confident kind of guy.
He was talking about Nino. Every time Nino got elevated into the top six, every time Nino was playing top 6 minutes with Parise or Koivu or Pominville, he was looking to pass, and he wasn't as aggressive, and then you didn't get some of the scoring, you didn't get some of the opportunities out of it, and I think that that's completely relevant. But I also think that you have to find a way to get Granlund going, because Granlund's just been absent with his production. I mean, he's a special player, but he's also a guy that he has 18 points. I mean, that's your top line center. If Koivu's not the top line center, a lot of people will always just argue that point.
Maybe some weird shit going on in Finland last summer, because all three of the guys have just kind of been. Yeah, I mean, think about it.
Koivu, you know what? I'll be the first person to say, Koivu, I think, has played better as of late.
Absolutely. And you're not the first.
He has elevated his game, and I will. I don't think that he does as well as he would if he was on the second line. Think of, you say rookies or younger guys. Zucker played fabulous on that line with Koivu and Vanek. I mean, that was they caught some lightning in a bottle with that line. So you remove Zucker from that, and could you possibly fill back in a Fontaine or a Schrader? I mean, maybe even more so Schrader with the speed.
Although Schrader and Zucker are righty lefty, they're not the same.
Okay, so point being is you have the characteristics of the player. I mean, right-handed, left-handed obviously is an important piece, but I think more so is just the characteristic of the player in the dynamic that they need to fit in. So if you're going to take out a person that is got speed, likes to shoot, likes to do that kind of stuff, you need to replace it with that kind of a character player.
I agree.
I
don't get that wrapped up in righty-lefty. Do you?
No. I mean, I don't think it's important, because once you're past the face-off, I mean,
yeah,
and you're buzzing around like fighter jets. I mean,
that's like a power play thing, right? Isn't that where that matters when you're setting up?
I personally like having guys play off wing. I mean, they come in with a better shooting angle when you cross the blue line.
Yeah.
I mean, I like it.
And so I mean, and Nino's a perfect example of one that he loves to cut back and go from the backhand to forehand and then snipe the puck. I mean, and when he pulls it back, I mean, they've talked about it time and time again. I mean, he's loading up the stick and he's getting a few more feet of bending that twig, and he's going to be able to fire it off.
Using the defenseman as a screen. I mean, when you're coming in on the off wing, there's a lot more you can do offensively.
And I think it's more important when you talk about defensemen. If you're on a right or left-handed defenseman, I think it is more important, because to play an offhanded defenseman or an offhanded position as a defenseman, you're going to have to be able to retrieve the puck with your backhand and flip it to your forehand quickly. And if you screw that up, if it pops your stick, if something else, the puck's behind you, and so is everybody else. I mean, and that's why I think playing that position, I know from experience, if I've had to play an off righty-lefty position, it's difficult.
It's more to think about than you need.
Well, and
right?
you're not going to be able to make plays. You're going to probably be on your backhand and just have to dump the puck back in, and not be a quarterback or pass it across or do something else. I mean, you limit your options. So in a perfect world, you have 6D, 3 of each.
Well, and so to this point, just recently, I think Russo came out and said that Jonas Brodin is more comfortable playing right defender, even though he's left-handed, which is kind of interesting, because you would think he would play better on the left-hand side, because that's his forehand, but he's more comfortable over there. Louis Belpedio, the kid from University of Miami, Ohio, who they drafted this year in the third round, he's a right-handed defender that plays on the left side, more comfortable there. And I think a lot of it has to do with the players' abilities and their comfort level. But I think guys that we've seen switch back and forth, Zucker is better on the left-hand side. He wants to play left side. He's not a right wing. Nino can play left wing, but probably likes it better on the right wing.
Let's say it better on the right. And
guy like Eric Howla, he was so important for the Gophers during their run because they were strong at center. He got hurt. He could play on the wing. Then he comes back. He can play center. So there's certain guys that can play wing, can play center. That's what makes Chicago so potent because of Hossa and Sharp and Kane and Taves. All those guys can switch between the wing and center and be effective.
I tell you what, though, when it comes to D, and then it's got again, you played the position. If it was me personally, I would feel more comfortable playing on the offside in my own zone because I feel like I'd have my stick in the passing lane, and I would feel more comfortable playing on the onside. The strong. I'm on the. If I'm right-handed, if I'm left-handed, I want to be the lefty in the attack zone. I mean, so I don't want it reversed from one end to the other.
And some do. Some will do flip-flopping. And another thing is depending on if you got a shooter defenseman in the offensive zone, you want to play your offside because if you get the pass across,
you get the stick in the passing lane.
You basically can do the one-timer.
But you want to be on your side for that board play, right?
Correct.
That's the tough part on the back end.
And that's where it goes into are you a shooter or are you a defensive defenseman? If you're somebody like a Scandella or somebody that likes to, just rip the shot, I mean, Spurgeon doesn't do as much one-timing, as Scandella does. Spurgeon does on his side, on his right side, he'll fire the puck because he can paint better when he's a little closer. And you just have to weigh your skills and determine what's more important. But considering we don't have an even distribution of righties or lefties on D. I mean, so you have to kind of adapt to what you need to do. And forwards, why they should be versatile, sometimes maybe it's even a mental thing that they need or feel more comfortable playing their specific side.
I want to rewind a little bit to early in the show. We're talking about trade deadline, and we talked about the thing that you have to be careful of is giving anything up. Go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah. That you got to be careful about giving anything up and then not being a playoff team. You get away from some of your younger resources. And all of a sudden, you're getting the golf clubs out, and it was just all for nothing. But the flip side of that, the danger that Chuck Fletcher faces, if he sees teams around him do what Winnipeg did and get better and see immediate impact, well, you do nothing. I mean, go to the flip side. The danger in that.
Certainly, there'll be an indictment if he doesn't make any sort of move to try to supplement this roster, and they fall short a couple points, and they get beat by.
He did make the deal for Dubnyk. I mean, he's got that,
which is a
season saver.
It's a season saver.
We wouldn't be in the position we're in to even talk about this if he hadn't have done that.
Yeah, so he's done. He's probably done enough to not catch too much heat.
It's a season.
Isn't that a little lucky though, too? Like, I don't think anybody was saying this is going to. I mean,
no, I don't.
No, you think
yes.
skill?
I mean, yes.
Skill.
Come on. I mean,
nobody knew Dubnyk was going to do this. Come on.
You get credit for Dubnyk being the savior, but you couldn't have foreseen that he would rattle off the stretch that he did. No way. I mean, what you were basing Dubnyk be the savior on is that Kemper and Backstrom had been so just atrocious.
He would be at least a notch better than them. That's what he was.
So when the trade was made, I was very underwhelmed because Dubnyk had been on 5 teams in 2 years. Then when he comes in and he's done this, it's a genius moment. So calling him the savior, you get credit for it, but you don't expect Dubnyk to be a top 5 goalie or a top 10 goalie. And I think what we're seeing is he's coming back to earth. So now it's like, what's the other thing? Because it's not a great trade if they miss the playoffs. It's a good trade, and it was a savvy trade for them to get him out of the desert for a 3rd-round pick, which is nothing really in the grand scheme of things.
I'll give a counterpoint to that, and I will say with the options he had at the time for goaltending, Cam Ward. What are you going to give up for Cam Ward?
Sure.
For a restricted free agent.
Yeah.
Somebody who he's not all that great, and I think he's in the decline of his career. So are you going to have a Backstrom 2.0 eventually on your hands, or any other aging player that you sign to a contract you shouldn't sign because you need to, and then all of a sudden he continues to decline? Other options. You have the Buffalo goaltenders that basically prior to playing them, we picked up Dubnyk. And you know what happened? We lit that guy up like a Christmas tree. 7 goals. So Okay,
But he was playing with Buffalo's
well,
roster.
that's what I'm saying. Okay, but then keep going. Then you got goaltenders up in Edmonton, perhaps. I mean, so any of these goaltenders are really no good. I mean, and so
you're right. Out of the options he had,
you put,
that's a pretty damn good choice.
And I'll tell you what,
Sure.
and Fletcher can get the face of the franchise credit for this stuff, but Fletcher has such great talent evaluation depth in his staff to look at players. I think
They've
so.
missed a lot recently. I mean, the last 2 years, he's come up with a veteran goaltender to help dig out of the hole. So if you're talking about just veteran goaltenders, I totally agree with you.
But again, you're not starting the season the right way, right? So isn't that his fault as well?
Well, then also look at the trade. So they don't give up a lot. You bring in Matthew Molson, but Matthew Molson was brutal, man.
No,
I mean,
agreed. And I would say, I think the reason they took a swing with Molson is because they knew that they had Vanek basically ready to go if they wanted him.
Sure.
So you know what? Why not take a swing with Molson?
Sure.
If the guy comes in and he's a dream and basically rips shit up, then you know what? You got Molson and you got Vanek.
Sure.
So you know what?
But you still traded for Molson, and he contributed nothing, and he was basically like press box material while the season was on the line in the second round.
And I got no problem with him taking swings if basically it works out sometimes. I got no problem with that. I would rather him do that.
You've got to swing and miss sometimes to hit home runs.
I would rather him do that.
But you can't say the thing you said about talent evaluation and them being so deep and this because he's been missing a lot, man. I mean, he's missed.
The reason Molson wasn't good, he just wasn't good in the system.
Well, yeah,
he just showed up and wasn't good in the system.
I'm saying, but look at Charlie Coyle. Charlie Coyle isn't a 20-goal scorer. He's not a top 6 guy. Not to say that he's not talented, but the Brett Burns trade looks like garbage when you have nothing to show for it in the second-round pick. I mean, you kind of do because it was part of the Pominville trade.
Plus, he was going to leave.
So, but your assets coming back are a lesser version of Charlie Coyle because he's probably looking like a guy that's going to be a depth third-line guy.
Don't we see Charlie Coyle getting better still, though? I mean, I know he's...
Could he get better? Yes. Is he ever going to be a 20-goal scorer sniper type at the NHL level? No.
No.
Can he be a serviceable?
But that's not his style. He's a power forward. But he's a power forward all day.
But even still, as a power forward...
Power forwards can score 20.
He could, but he's not. He hasn't. And he probably won't.
No, I'm not saying he will.
Yeah, and then the other kid in that trade is Zach Phillips, who is a complete bust, and who is the cancer of the organization prospect-wise, because he's a guy that you take in the first round, and he has the talent. It's the work that he needs to put in on his skating, on his ability to contribute in the defensive end, and when it comes time for call-ups, you're calling up a 7th-round pick in Tyler Gravovic, not your first-round pick from the Burns trade. And this is a guy that Flair and Fletcher selected in the first round when they could have taken other guys.
Yeah, I'm saying, but beyond that,
I'm saying
you got
there's chinks in the armor. That's all.
Jonas Brodin, who I was present at that draft, and I'm like, who the F is this clown?
And that was a really good pick.
Now what happened?
Yeah.
Jason Zucker, no-namer. Holla if he plays to his potential. Steal at 7th round.
Never forget the Niederreiter trade.
Never forget that
trade.
There is so much
Very
more
solid.
that you can see as far as talent evaluation on the squad compared to what it was prior to Chucky coming in here and bringing Brett with him.
Sure. But I mean there's other teams that draft. I mean, look at the way Detroit drafts. Gustav Nyquist,
they're one of the
Thomas
best
Tatar,
ever.
and these are late 20s. These are late 20s.
Look at Edmonton.
Anthony Mantha.
Edmonton drafts high all the time, and they're dog shit.
Yeah, they are.
I mean, if you're talking about talent evaluation, it's just on paper.
Yeah.
I mean, my God, that kid from Sarnia. I mean, he was supposed to be.
Talking about Niall Yakupov.
Yeah, Neil Yakupov. I mean, he was supposed to be like the stud of that draft.
Sure.
Dog shit. Shit, cancer in the locker room, problem with the agent. He's a mess.
This current group.
Minnesota would destroy him.
This current
Is that the kid who went to his knees when he scored and pissed everybody off, and they finally had to stop doing it?
Yes, and the Asian is Igor. He's a former NHLer, Russian, who kind of is his mouthpiece with regard to like not liking what the coach's role was and them not letting him be who he wants to be.
Yakupov's agent?
Yes.
Did you say? Oh, they said Asian. I'm like, an Asian named Igor?
That's why I got the crazy looks. I thought agent is like a nationally.
I thought he said Asian.
But I mean, beyond like Eberle, I mean, they've had some pretty disastrous.
But
I mean,
Igor,
they picked up Schultz, and I mean, everybody thought Schultz was this collegiate player that was going to be fabulous.
Yeah,
and he hasn't done anything.
No.
But
I mean,
besides-
that might be the
was too.
system, but who knows?
Besides this current group of young players, which is good, right? But they haven't completely become NHL superstars, any of them, right? That they're pretty talent bankrupt in the system. So you have Alex Tuck at Boston College. You have Belpedio. You have Lucia, who's at Notre Dame, having a really good season.
I'm going to see him next weekend.
You have a couple kids in the pipeline, but at the AHL level, you're pretty talent bankrupt, and that's because of some trades, but that's also because there's some kids that haven't worked out, and Fletcher, this next generation of kids, hasn't worked out for Fletcher and Flair, and there's just chinks in the armor with regard to their evaluation of players, and that's what I'm saying. So now going forward, right? They should add a guy like Bergenheim to this roster. They should add a secondary guy, and then Yo has to make sure that these lines complement each other. You can't have a bunch of tiny players playing on a line against any of these teams in the Central Division, because the Blues will beat the crap out of us.
We are fairly small. I mean, we are fairly small, and I've actually